Good evening, dear traveler. Tonight, let us set sail across silver waters, where time is not counted, but gently woven into dreams. Close your eyes, and drift with me to the island of woven time. Far beyond the last known currents, where the waters of the world grew clear and weightless, there floated a lonely island, an island forgotten by maps, untouched by ships, invisible to any hurried gaze. It was said that time itself slowed to a breath there, to a sigh, and that if one listened closely enough, the very hours would hum in the weaving winds. Upon the shores of this island, soft sands shimmered like spilled stardust, warm under a sky stitched with endless twilight. No sun, no moon, only a gentle light, as if the sky were an endless tapestry woven from the softest blues and golds. At the island's heart, great looms stood like silent giants, their wooden arms turning with infinite patience, threading the strands of time itself into shimmering cloths. Few had ever seen the weavers, for they moved like mist between the looms, not human, not quite spirit, but something tender and ancient, beings born from the hush of forgotten mornings and the sigh of yesterday's dreams. One evening, drifting on a boat no larger than a cradle, a sailor arrived at the island, not by compass, not by map, but by a longing too soft to name. His oars floated beside him, untouched, his sails hung still. He stepped ashore with bare feet, carrying nothing but a small silver watch that no longer ticked, and a heart heavy with quiet questions. The sand kissed his skin with warmth as he walked, each step leaving no mark. Around him, the air carried a sound like distant bells underwater, the music of threads being woven, slowly, tenderly, into something unseen. Above the looms, great banners of woven time floated, shimmering with scenes from every life, a child's first laugh, a tear slipping silently down a cheek, the last glance between two parting friends. All woven together, soft and endless. And so, the sailor walked deeper into the island, drawn by something he could not name. A call softer than memory. A song older than sorrow. The weavers did not speak, not with words. They greeted him with a tilt of their heads, with the shimmer of light across their translucent fingers, with the slow turning of their timeless looms. Around them, threads floated in the air like living things, strands of silver, gold, blue as midnight, green as first spring. Some threads pulsed gently with a soft, inner light, others drifted, waiting to be gathered. The sailor, wordless himself, only placed a hand over his chest and bowed his head, for he understood, somehow, that this was a place where silence spoke louder than any voice. He wandered between the looms, marveling at the cloths being born, endless scrolls of woven days and nights. In one tapestry, he saw a garden where petals rained down like golden snow. In another, a bird soared higher and higher into an unending sky. In yet another, a quiet river wound its way through mountains of glass. The sailor's broken watch, still silent, trembled in his pocket. Finally, an elder weaver, wrapped in a robe woven of sunset and shadow, approached him. From the folds of their garment, they drew out a single silver thread, fine as breath, and held it between their fingers, offering it without a word. The sailor understood. It was a choice. With trembling hands, he accepted the thread, and as he did, the island itself seemed to sigh, the looms slowing, the wind pausing, the stars above blinking a little softer. Thus began his weaving, slow, patient, without rush, the making of a cloth that would tell not what he had done, but what he would still become. The silver thread trembled lightly in the sailor's fingers, cool and delicate, almost weightless, yet carrying a feeling as vast as an ocean. Without words, the elder weaver led him to a smaller loom, tucked beneath the sweeping boughs of a tree that shed leaves made of soft white linen. The loom itself was simple, no grand spools or heavy beams, but delicate, as if meant for the hands of dreamers rather than workers. As the sailor approached, the loom began to hum, its strings vibrating gently, as if greeting an old friend long awaited. He sat before it, the silver thread glowing between his fingers, and the weavers withdrew into the mist, leaving him with the endless hush of the island, the slow sigh of the sea, the soft rustle of woven banners overhead, the occasional whisper of linen leaves falling to the ground without a sound. The sailor did not know how to weave. Yet his hands moved as though remembering something older than his own life. He touched the loom's strands, tying the silver thread among them, and the weaving began, not with haste, not with fear, but with the patient, deliberate movements of a heart slowly unfolding. With every touch, a memory stirred. A blue morning when he had stood barefoot in the dew. A single star glimpsed between parting clouds. The quiet joy of mending a torn sail with golden thread. These moments, once small and unremarkable, now shimmered under his fingertips like treasures long buried beneath the tide of days. The cloth grew slowly, a tapestry spun not of grand victories or terrible sorrows, but of all the soft, unnoticed moments that had shaped his soul. Moments when he had smiled without knowing, when he had hoped without reason, when he had forgiven without being asked. Above him, the linen leaves danced like slow-falling snow, and the looms beyond his sight continued their ancient songs. Time, on this island, did not hurry. It stretched out like the sea, wide, endless, tender. And the sailor wove on, as if there were no end to the gentle hours ahead. The first colors of his weaving were pale and soft, misty blues, tender grays, the faintest golds, blending into one another like the sky just before dawn. The silver thread he had been given shone through them, a slender river winding across the fabric, guiding his hand without force, without command. As he worked, he became aware of others, not just the elder weaver, but many figures moving quietly among the trees and looms. Some wove with threads of deep violet, others with threads the color of spring rain. No two tapestries were the same, yet all shared the same deep, slow heartbeat, a rhythm older than song, softer than breath. He caught glimpses of their works, a mother cradling a sleeping child beneath a crimson sky, an old man setting a tiny boat adrift on a river of molten silver, a fox running through fields of endless autumn. Each story shimmered briefly before slipping away into the mist. The sailor smiled to himself, a smile not born of pride or accomplishment, but of belonging, a feeling as sweet and fragile as a new leaf unfurling. Hours, days, or perhaps years might have passed. It did not matter. Here, time was not a master, but a companion, a river in which to drift without fear. As he wove, a gentle presence brushed past him, not a weaver this time, but a small creature shaped like a moth, its wings stitched from tiny flecks of starlight. It perched lightly on the loom, regarding him with eyes like liquid onyx, as if in approval. The sailor paused, his fingers resting on the strands, and closed his eyes. In that moment, he felt it. The island breathing. The weavers smiling unseen. The soft, eternal weaving of all lives together, stitch by stitch. Without hurry, without end. The moth lingered a while longer, its wings pulsing with a gentle light, not bright, not dazzling, but soft, like a memory glimpsed through mist. It seemed to hum a sound too delicate for the ear, a vibration that settled deep in the sailor's chest, where questions had once lived like restless birds. Then, without any haste, the moth drifted away, rising slowly into the pale, woven sky, leaving behind a single, almost invisible thread of silver in the air. It wavered in the breeze, then quietly became part of the greater tapestry of the island. The sailor watched until he could no longer tell where the thread ended and the sky began. Returning to his loom, he let his hands move once more, weaving not with intention, but with trust, as if the loom itself whispered which threads to gather, which memories to call forth. He thought of a tiny lantern swinging on the prow of his boat, guiding him through fog so thick it had hidden even his own hands. He thought of the scent of salt on a warm wind, the taste of fresh bread shared with strangers, the sound of laughter carried across a still harbor. Each memory softened the cloth under his touch, blending the threads into a tapestry rich with quiet light. The elder weaver watched from a distance, saying nothing, offering no instructions. For here, no one told another what to weave, the soul knew its own pattern, if only it were given enough stillness, enough sky. Above the island, the sky darkened, not with night, for there was no night here, but with a deeper shade of blue, like velvet unfurling across a slow-moving sea. Tiny lights, like seeds or stars, blinked into being one by one, each one marking a dream someone, somewhere, had chosen to remember. And through it all, the loom sang. A lullaby woven from 1,000 forgotten afternoons. From 1,000 remembered hopes. The cloth he wove began to lengthen, spilling gently from the loom to pool at his feet like a river of colors. Each thread told a tiny story, too soft for words, but clear enough for the heart to recognize. There were moments stitched with laughter, small, golden knots hidden among the paler strands. There were sighs woven in dusky blue, memories that had once brought tears now softened into something tender, something beautiful. He understood now, without needing to be told. This tapestry was not just his past. It was his becoming. A map made not of roads and borders, but of feelings and silences and moments when he had stood between two choices and, without knowing, had chosen the path of kindness. The elder weaver approached once more, carrying a bundle wrapped in shimmering cloth. Unfolding it carefully, they revealed a spindle, carved from driftwood, polished by time, and a spool of thread as fine and golden as morning light. The sailor looked at it in wonder. This was not thread from his own life, it was something new, unwoven, untouched, waiting for him to spin it into being. The elder weaver placed the spindle gently before him, their hands lingering a moment over the gift, as if blessing it with an unseen word. Then they withdrew again, leaving him alone with this new offering. A choice stretched before him, wide and soft as the sea. to keep weaving the stories that had already been lived, or to gather the golden thread and weave something yet unseen. The sailor sat quietly, breathing in the slow, shimmering air of the island, feeling the weight, and the lightness, of that moment settle into his bones. And above him, the stars blinked softly, waiting, patient and kind. The sailor sat for a long while, the spindle gleaming softly in the dim golden light, the new thread loose and shimmering, like a captured piece of dawn. The loom before him waited, silent, patient, as though it too understood that beginnings must not be hurried. In the hush, he closed his eyes. He remembered the gentle rocking of the boat upon waves that whispered of nowhere in particular. He remembered the scent of rain on dry wood, the sigh of ropes against the mast, the slow turning of the stars overhead. He remembered, not destinations, but moments of pausing, places where he had lingered longer than reason demanded, only because something tender had called him to stay. And so, when he opened his eyes once more, he knew what he would weave. He reached out, gathering the first slender strand of the golden thread. It slid between his fingers like warm mist, pliant and alive, humming faintly as if filled with 1,000 unseen possibilities. With the careful reverence of someone lighting a single candle in the vastness of night, he tied it to the loom. The weaving was different now. Before, he had traced memories, following the lines of what had been. Now, he wove in open spaces, stitching together dreams he had not yet dreamt, paths he had not yet walked. His hands moved slowly, as if painting with light. The cloth gleamed brighter than before, not blinding, but soft, radiant, alive. Patterns emerged, a small cottage surrounded by fields of wild bluebells, a bridge arching over a river of silver fish, a face he did not yet know, smiling from the distance of some future afternoon. The sailor smiled too, a quiet, wondering smile. He realized that he was not weaving a plan, nor a goal, nor even a destiny. He was weaving a promise. To live gently. To choose wonder. To follow the unseen music wherever it might lead. And as he wove, the looms of the island seemed to lean closer, their ancient songs blending into his own new melody. The air grew warmer, as if the island itself had exhaled in contentment. Above him, the banner of his weaving billowed softly, catching the tender winds that danced among the linen-leaf trees. Around him, the other weavers paused in their silent work, casting glances, not of judgment or instruction, but of quiet approval, as one might watch a flower turning its face to the sun. The sailor did not look up from his work, but he felt their presence, a circle of unseen kindness encircling him, lifting him gently as he wove. The golden thread unwound slowly, revealing not just bright futures, but also soft spaces of rest, gardens thick with jasmine-scented air, long paths through ancient woods where time itself slept between the roots. Dreams of stillness, of belonging, of finding small joys tucked into the folds of ordinary days. Each strand he laid across the loom carried a murmur of peace, a promise to honor the slow, quiet wonders of the world. He wove lakes that mirrored the sky so perfectly they disappeared into it. He wove lanterns that floated down rivers like tiny, wandering moons. He wove moments of breath, of laughter bubbling up from a secret place, of a silent hand resting lightly upon another, of long mornings where the only sound was the ticking of a lazy clock. The cloth grew heavier now, but it was a good weight, like a blanket woven from starlight, meant to wrap around a soul on a cold night. And when at last the final thread slipped through his fingers, he laid his hands flat upon the tapestry, feeling its soft, humming life beneath his palms. The weaving was not perfect. It was not meant to be. It was full of little knots and uneven places, tiny wanderings where his hand had trembled or hesitated. But it was his, tender, true, and utterly alive. And above him, the stars blinked in slow applause, their light spilling down like a silent rain of blessings. The sailor sat back, hands resting quietly in his lap, gazing at the finished tapestry, a river of gold and mist, stitched with small, secret joys and wide, silent hopes. It shimmered even in the stillness, breathing with the same slow rhythm as the island itself. Around him, the linen leaf trees whispered in soft circles, and the looms hummed low and tender, their songs blending into one great, invisible music. Somewhere overhead, moths stitched from stars waltzed between unseen breezes, their wings scattering threads of light. The elder weaver returned, their steps as light as the passing of a dream. Without speaking, they held out both hands, palms upward, a silent question floating between them. The sailor rose. With deep care, he lifted the tapestry from the loom, and it came free like a second skin, flowing into his arms, wrapping him not in weight, but in warmth, in 1,000 soft promises yet to be lived. As he placed the tapestry into the elder's waiting hands, something curious happened. The tapestry, though born from his own weaving, began to lift and drift upward, as if it had caught a current of invisible wind. The elder smiled, their face creasing with a tenderness older than time itself, and released it. Slowly, slowly, the tapestry rose. Higher. Higher still. Until it joined the endless banners fluttering across the island's skies. There, it shone among countless other stories, some bright as suns, others as soft as twilight, each one woven by a soul who had once wandered here, carrying only a question in their heart. The sailor watched until his own cloth became just another glimmer among the many. And yet, somehow, he knew he would always recognize it, that particular curve of golden river, that particular field of bluebells, whenever he looked up into any sky. The elder weaver, robes stirring in a breeze scented with salt and jasmine, placed a hand lightly upon the sailor's shoulder. No words were needed. The touch said, "You have woven well. You have remembered what matters. You are ready." With a final bow, more a blessing than a farewell, the elder stepped back into the mists, their figure dissolving like a thread pulled into the loom of the world. The sailor turned toward the shore, where his small boat still floated, unchanged, and yet somehow different, touched by the long hush of the island's dreaming. His silver watch, still silent, still unwound, rested in his pocket, no longer a weight, but a memory. He stepped lightly over the starlit sands, each footfall a silent promise to walk more slowly, to listen more carefully, to live with hands open to the threads of unseen wonder. As he pushed the boat into the water, a current, gentle and sure, caught it immediately, carrying him out across the shimmering sea. He did not steer. He did not need to. The winds of the island, stitched from 1,000 quiet dreams, filled his sail, and the stars above stitched his path in silver thread. And the island, tender and eternal, hummed behind him, its looms still weaving, its trees still singing, its sky still blooming with the soft, endless banners of those who had come, and woven, and gone, carrying the quiet splendor of time within their hearts. Far on the horizon, where sea and sky became one, the sailor closed his eyes and drifted onward, cradled by the soft, patient hands of the world. The boat drifted onward, cradled by waters so smooth they mirrored the stars without a ripple. The sailor lay back, his hands behind his head, watching the slow dance of constellations overhead, not the constellations he had known, but new ones, shapes of stitched tapestries, luminous rivers, silver moths with outspread wings. The sea around him whispered, in no tongue he could name, but in a language the heart knows, a language made not of words, but of hushes, of pauses, of breath held in wonder. He floated through landscapes spun of mist and starlight, islands shaped like sleeping animals, forests where the trees breathed in time with the tides, shores where great bells hung from invisible towers, ringing only when the dream wind stirred them. No need to anchor. No need to steer. Each current led softly to the next, a patient invitation to simply drift, to simply be. From time to time, tiny fish leapt alongside the boat, their scales shimmering with impossible colors, then vanished again into the velvet depths. Far in the distance, great pale whales breached silently, their songs threading through the air like slow, low chimes. The sailor watched, not with the hungry eyes of a seeker, but with the quiet eyes of one who knows that beauty is not to be claimed, only witnessed. And so, between water and sky, between woven memory and open future, the sailor floated deeper and deeper into a peace so complete, so tender, that it seemed even time itself had curled up to sleep. Hours, or perhaps days, or perhaps lifetimes passed in that sweet, endless drifting. It made no difference. The sailor's heart had learned a new measure, not of hours or days, but of breaths taken softly, of stars counted one by one, of dreams stitched gently into the folds of waking life. At last, as if summoned by a thought too soft to hear, a new shore appeared ahead, faint and golden, wrapped in morning mist. It was not the island he had left behind. It was not any place he had ever known. It was a new beginning. As the boat touched the sand with a whisper, the sailor stood, feeling the earth solid and warm beneath his bare feet. In his pocket, the silver watch remained silent, but now he smiled when he touched it, for he knew that true time was not counted by ticks or tocks, but by how tenderly a life was woven. He stepped onto the new land, where fields of soft grass bent to greet him, where the sky stretched vast and welcoming overhead. And there, in that wide, waiting world, the sailor walked forward, weaving new days with each breath, each smile, each quiet wonder, carrying the gentle music of the island of woven time forever within his chest. Behind him, the sea breathed softly, and the stars blinked slowly out, one by one, as dawn's first silver light touched the edge of the world. And somewhere, far behind the hills, the ancient looms continued their slow, endless weaving. Patient, kind, eternal. Singing the quiet song of all who wander. And all who dream. And all who remember how to listen. In a faraway world, where every tree is spun from delicate porcelain, a quiet story waits to be heard. Tonight, we wander slowly through the porcelain forest, where even broken things sing with beauty. Far beyond the fields where wild grasses whispered to the stars, there stretched a forest unlike any other, a forest not of wood and leaf, but of porcelain. Each tree, each branch, each trembling leaf had been crafted as if by the careful breath of an unseen artist. Their trunks gleamed under the light of distant moons, and their boughs swayed with the faintest sigh of the wind, singing soft, crystalline songs into the night. When the breeze stirred, the leaves chimed against each other, 1,000 tiny notes blending into a music so delicate it seemed made of dreams. The ground beneath the trees was powdered with the dust of ages, not ash, not sand, but crushed fragments of petals long since fallen, each one gleaming like pearls in the moonlight. Few dared to walk there. It was said that even a heavy step could crack the oldest trunks, that even a careless whisper could send 1,000 porcelain blossoms tumbling to the ground. And so, the forest slept, untouched, wrapped in a silence not of death, but of a waiting so patient it seemed almost holy. One evening, under a sky woven with silver mist, a quiet traveler arrived at the forest's edge. They wore simple clothes, dusted from long journeys, and carried nothing but a slender satchel slung across their shoulder, a satchel filled not with tools or weapons, but with small, shining shards of broken things they had found along their path. The traveler knelt at the edge of the trees, placing one hand gently upon the cool, luminous ground. The forest sang under their fingers, a tremulous, whispering song, too soft to understand, but too beautiful to resist. And so, heart beating with reverent care, the traveler rose and stepped into the porcelain forest. Each step was a breath, a prayer, a promise. The traveler moved with the lightness of drifting pollen, their feet barely brushing the earth. The trees above arched high, their branches interlacing in intricate patterns, like the lacework of ancient dreams. Now and then, a single porcelain leaf would drift down from above, spinning slowly, chiming against the air before settling onto the ground with a sound like the softest sigh. The traveler marveled at the details, the way some trees were tinted pale blue, like a memory of sky, the way others bore blossoms of faint gold, petals so thin they seemed spun from sunlight itself. In the distance, deeper into the heart of the woods, there stood a tree larger than all the rest, its trunk smooth as river stones, its roots sprawling like frozen rivers across the shimmering earth. It was toward this great tree that the traveler felt drawn, as if some quiet thread, invisible and kind, were tugging softly at their heart. As they walked, they passed small wonders, a porcelain deer, frozen mid-step, its eyes wide and kind, a nest of delicate birds, each feather carved so finely that they seemed ready to take flight, a brook, its waters stilled forever in a glassy, flowing shape, winding through the roots of the trees. The traveler paused often, not to collect, not to disturb, but simply to marvel, to offer a silent thanks to the forest that had waited so long for a witness. Above them, the stars wheeled slowly across the endless night, their reflections glinting in the smooth surfaces of leaves and trunks and petals. And still, the traveler moved forward, one careful step at a time, into the deep, dreaming heart of the porcelain forest. The deeper the traveler moved into the forest, the quieter the world became, as if each step muffled not just sound, but even thought itself. There was a purity to the silence, not empty, not lonely, but filled with something luminous and whole, like standing inside a bell just before it rings. The great tree grew nearer with every step, towering above the others with a grace so profound that it seemed to hold up the sky itself. Its bark was not smooth like the others, but patterned, tiny swirling marks, like the whirls of ancient rivers or forgotten songs. At its roots, the ground gleamed whiter than snow, so bright it seemed to glow from within. The traveler paused at the edge of the great clearing surrounding the tree, their breath catching gently. There, at the tree's base, was a door. Not a door as built by human hands, no wood, no hinges, no iron lock, but a shape outlined in the porcelain trunk itself, delicate and perfect, a slender seam barely visible in the moonlit glow. The traveler approached with reverence, their fingers tingling in the cool air. As they neared, the door seemed to breathe, not opening, not resisting, but listening. Slowly, slowly, the traveler reached into their satchel, pulling free one of the broken shards they had carried with them, a small piece of something once beautiful, a fragment of a broken tea bowl, blue and white like a frozen wave. They held it toward the door. And at their offering, the seam in the tree shivered once. Then parted, soundlessly, like the opening of a flower at midnight. Beyond the doorway, only a soft light shone, a light so gentle it seemed not to banish darkness, but to cradle it, like a lullaby cradles sleep. And without fear, without hesitation, the traveler stepped inside. Inside, the world shifted, not harshly, not suddenly, but like a river changing its course in slow, deliberate grace. The traveler found themselves standing in a vast hollow, the inside of the great tree spreading upward beyond sight. Every surface, every curve of the walls, was made of delicate, shimmering porcelain, painted with faint, ancient patterns, vines curling upward, birds soaring, waves curling into themselves. In the very center of the hollow stood a low table, and upon it, scattered like petals, lay dozens of broken pieces, cups, bowls, vases, figurines, all cracked and incomplete, yet each radiating a soft beauty untouched by time. The traveler's heart filled with a feeling too large to name, part sorrow, part wonder, part aching tenderness. The broken pieces did not seem abandoned. They seemed waiting. Waiting not to be mended, not to be forced whole again, but simply to be seen, to be honored as they were, beautiful not despite their fractures, but because of them. Kneeling by the table, the traveler laid their shard among the others. It chimed faintly as it touched the table, a sound so pure, so soft, that it seemed to ripple outward through the entire hollow, stirring the painted vines into faint, ghostly motion, like a breath across still waters. For a long moment, nothing more happened. And then, from deep within the roots of the tree, from deep within the heart of the forest itself, came a low, resonant hum, as if the world were singing a song too deep for words. The traveler closed their eyes and simply listened, feeling the music mend something inside them that they had not even known was broken. The hum deepened, blossoming into layers, low tones like the roll of distant thunder, high notes like the laughter of small rivers, and somewhere in between, a weaving, endless music, as intricate as the filigree on a forgotten cup. The traveler knelt motionless, listening with their whole being, as though the very fibers of their heart were being gently untangled, gently rewoven, by the sound. And then, with a movement as soft as a sigh, the broken pieces upon the table began to stir. Not with violence, not with urgency, but with a shy, trembling life. The fragment of a porcelain bird quivered and shifted, its tiny, fractured wings glowing faintly. The curve of a shattered bowl tilted slowly, its edges singing as they brushed against another shard. Piece by piece, without force, without command, the broken things reached for one another, drawn by something older and kinder than memory. The traveler watched, breathless and still, as the pieces reassembled, not into their original forms, not into perfect replicas of what they had once been, but into new shapes. A bowl woven through with the wings of birds. A vase that swirled like a whirlpool, every crack gilded in delicate light. A figurine of a tree whose roots and branches were formed from 100 different stories, stitched lovingly together. The traveler's own shard, the fragment of blue and white, found its place within a bird's outstretched wing, nestled alongside fragments of countless others, a patchwork of lives and losses made whole by their very incompleteness. The hollow glowed with a light that needed no sun, no moon, a light born from within, tender and unbreakable. And the hum continued. Soft as the turning of seasons. Endless as the sigh of a sleeping sea. Slowly, reverently, the traveler rose to their feet. All around them, the hollow pulsed with life, with a stillness that was not empty, but full of all the stories that had ever been broken, and all the ways they had found to shine anyway. The walls of the tree, once merely beautiful, now shimmered with new patterns, great rivers winding through valleys stitched from 1,000 tiny shards, stars blooming in skies painted from the dust of fallen petals, mountains rising from the echoes of forgotten songs. The traveler stepped carefully toward the center of the hollow, where a narrow spiral staircase curled upward, made entirely from translucent porcelain roots. Each step chimed underfoot, a soft note joining the deeper music that filled the tree. Without hesitation, the traveler ascended, moving slowly, reverently, one step at a time. As they climbed, they passed windows, not windows of glass, but open spaces where the branches of the tree parted to reveal the world beyond. Through one, they saw the stars, closer now, so close they seemed to breathe. Through another, they glimpsed fields of endless white lilies swaying beneath a sky spun from threads of twilight. Through a third, a sleeping village, its rooftops dusted with the silver hush of dreams. The higher they climbed, the lighter their heart became, as though some unseen burden had slipped quietly from their shoulders, leaving behind only wonder, only the soft, singing hush of hope. At last, at the very top of the winding stairs, the traveler reached a small platform, open to the stars. And there, waiting quietly in the starlight, was something they had not expected to find. A mirror. But not a mirror of silver and glass. A mirror woven entirely from porcelain. Reflecting not the traveler's face, but their heart. The porcelain mirror shimmered in the soft starlight, breathing with the slow, timeless rhythm of the forest itself. The traveler stood before it, uncertain for a moment, not out of fear, but out of reverence, as if they had reached the hush between one breath and the next, the still place where all true things begin. They gazed into the mirror. And what gazed back was not their reflection, not their face shaped by years and weather and time, but something simpler, something purer. They saw a heart, woven from all the moments they had loved and lost, from every kindness given and every sorrow borne in silence. It pulsed gently, threaded through with cracks that shimmered gold, each fracture a story, each line a testament to something endured, something learned, something forgiven. The traveler did not weep. There was no sadness here. Only a deep, trembling tenderness, the kind that arises when one realizes that brokenness is not a flaw, but the place where light most tenderly enters. For a long time, they stood thus, heart to heart with their own reflection, letting the quiet music of the forest sing through them. The stars turned slowly above, patient as old friends. And when the traveler finally stepped back, the mirror gave a single, delicate chime, a note so pure it seemed to settle into the roots of the world itself. The traveler bowed, a bow not of farewell, but of gratitude, and turned toward the spiral staircase once more, ready to return to the earth below, carrying the quiet treasure of what they had seen. The descent was slower than the climb, each step a prayer stitched into movement, each footfall a whispered promise to live a little softer, to listen a little deeper, to carry the music of the porcelain forest wherever their path might lead. When the traveler reached the hollow once more, they found the great table empty, the fragments now woven into new lives, new shapes, singing softly in their stillness. The tree itself seemed to breathe around them, its branches expanding and contracting like the slow, sweet lungs of a sleeping world. The traveler placed their hand upon the smooth, cool surface of the wall, not to take, not to change, but to offer a silent blessing. Thank you for waiting. Thank you for trusting me to see you. And then, as gently as a leaf falls upon a pond, the hollow opened once more, the doorway to the forest reappearing, lit with the same tender light as before. The traveler stepped out into the clearing. Above them, the forest chimed and sighed, the porcelain leaves singing a song woven from their passing, a song of welcome, of farewell, of endless belonging. The stars shimmered down through the branches. The great tree loomed in quiet grace behind them, its hollow heart no longer hidden, but part of the great breathing world. The travelers smiled, a small, knowing smile, and turned their feet back toward the path that led beyond the porcelain forest. They carried nothing in their hands, but their heart was full. Full of the music of broken things made beautiful. Full of the light stitched into every fracture. Full of the hush and wonder of a world that sings, even in its silences. And softly, like a whisper carried on wind, they walked on, into the dreaming night. The path that led away from the porcelain forest was almost invisible, a faint ribbon of crushed pearl dust that wound through sleeping meadows and under slow-turning skies. The traveler walked with the lightness of one who has placed their burdens down in a safe place, their steps unhurried, their breath deep and easy. All around, the world exhaled with them. Grasses swayed like soft curtains, sighing against one another. Night-blooming flowers unfolded velvet petals, releasing perfumes so delicate they seemed more dream than scent. Above, clouds shaped like forgotten lullabies floated in slow procession, trailing long silver tails across the indigo sky. The traveler did not glance back at the forest, not out of forgetfulness, but out of trust. Some things, once seen with the heart, remain forever, needing no second look. Their satchel, once filled with broken shards, was now light against their side, carrying only a few faint traces of porcelain dust, not as loss, but as memory, as gentle reminder of all that had been woven anew. They passed a brook that laughed quietly over smooth stones. They passed a thicket where soft-bellied foxes dreamed curled together beneath branches woven of moonlight. They passed trees that stretched their arms up toward the stars, humming low songs too old for language. And with every step, the traveler felt the music of the porcelain forest still moving within them, a hush stitched into every heartbeat, a song folded into every breath. The night deepened into a blue so rich it seemed almost to sing, and still they walked. Not toward an end, but toward a wider beginning. As they moved through the hushed meadowlands, small lights began to flicker at the edges of vision, not fireflies, nor lanterns, but tiny orbs of light, each pulsing softly, each carrying the tender glow of a remembered kindness. One brushed past the traveler's cheek, a caress so light they scarcely felt it, and with it came a sudden rush of memory, the sound of a mother's lullaby, the feel of cool river water against bare feet, the first wild, laughing dance beneath a summer storm. The lights did not crowd, they drifted like sleepy stars, keeping gentle pace with the traveler, illuminating the path ahead with their slow, pulsing breath. In the far distance, a faint hill rose against the horizon, crowned by an ancient oak whose branches spread wide and welcoming. A single lantern hung from the oak's lowest limb, its flame steady and small, painting a pool of golden warmth upon the earth. Drawn by a feeling deeper than thought, the traveler made their way toward it. As they neared, they saw that beneath the oak sat a bench, simple, weathered by time, woven with vines that bore tiny, pearl-like flowers. An invitation without urgency, without demand. The traveler sat down slowly, the bench creaking with a sigh that seemed more greeting than complaint. From this vantage, the meadow rolled away into endless silver fields, the stars swam in slow, swirling rivers above, and the porcelain forest, though now hidden beyond hill and valley, still sang softly in the traveler's heart. They sat, breathing in the hush of the night. Holding nothing. Needing nothing. Simply part of the great, breathing, dreaming world. Time, seated gently beside the traveler, ceased to hurry. It stretched outward like a silk thread pulled across endless fields, weaving itself into the folds of the night, slipping into the spaces between heartbeats. The traveler leaned back against the oak's rough bark, feeling the deep, slow pulse of life within it, a rhythm that matched the slow breathing of the earth, the steady turning of unseen tides. Above, the stars arched wider, brightening not with fierceness but with calm certainty, like ancient lamps tended by unseen hands. And all around, the lights of memory continued to drift, small, glowing seeds of stories long told, of kindnesses given and received, of tiny moments of wonder too small to name but too large to ever be lost. The traveler closed their eyes. Not to sleep, not yet, but to listen. Beneath the hush of the meadow, beneath the whisper of flowers opening to the stars, beneath even the slow heartbeat of the hills, they could hear it. The song of the porcelain forest. Woven now into the very fabric of the night. Woven into them. It was not a loud song, nor a proud one. It was the music of things mended gently. The music of brokenness cherished, not hidden. The music of time held in open hands, not gripped in fear. And in hearing it, the traveler smiled, a smile soft and slow as the first light of dawn touching a river. They understood now that the forest had never needed guarding, never needed mending. It had needed only to be seen. And in being seen, it had flourished, its quiet heart opened once more to the weaving world. The traveler remained a long while beneath the oak tree, wrapped in the cloak of slow hours and breathing stars. When at last they rose, it was with no great purpose, no plan charted or demanded. It was simply time to move forward, to carry the music of the porcelain leaves and the golden cracks of light stitched through every memory, into the wide, unfolding day. The path ahead shimmered faintly in the silver-blue light, curving gently over the hills, between sleeping fields, into landscapes still wrapped in dreams. With one last glance at the lantern swinging gently in the tree, a final blessing, a quiet farewell, the traveler set off. They moved not hurriedly, not fearfully, but with the peace of one who knows that every crack, every scar, every soft place inside the heart is a place where the light is meant to shine through. And behind them, though hidden from sight, the porcelain forest sang on. Its leaves chiming in the breeze. Its blossoms opening wide to the stars. Its hollow heart forever alive with the music of broken things made beautiful. And so, the traveler walked on. Not to forget, but to weave new songs, new dreams, new golden fractured stories into the soft, endless tapestry of the world. And above them, the stars stitched slow rivers of light across the sky. And the night held them all, broken, beautiful, mended, whole. In a silence deeper than dreams. Beyond the end of every map, there blooms a house, a living place, shaped by dreams and soft wishes. Tonight, we will step inside the house that grows at the edge of the world. At the place where maps surrendered to the unknown, where the last hills faded into mist, and the stars wove silver bridges across the empty sky, there grew a house. It did not stand upon foundations, nor rise from beams and bricks. It blossomed, like a living thing, from the very earth itself. Its walls were spun from the fibers of forgotten dreams, its roof arched like the petals of a sleeping flower, and its windows blinked softly in the moonlight, breathing in the slow rhythm of the tides beyond sight. No path led to it. No footprints marred the fields of soft grass that swayed at its roots. The house simply grew, silent and patient, waiting for a traveler who did not yet know they were searching. One twilight, when the sky was neither gold nor violet but something in between, something stitched from the breath between day and night, such a traveler appeared. They came not from any road, nor by any compass, but by a quiet longing that had gathered in their chest like rain clouds waiting to break. Their cloak was worn, their shoes dusted with journeys long and forgotten. Their heart, though, was tender and listening, and it was this, more than anything, that the house heard. The traveler stood before the growing house, marveling at its living walls, its soft, unfurling corners, the way it seemed to shift gently in the breeze, as if dreaming. And with a sigh that was not sadness, nor fear, but something softer, the traveler reached out their hand, and touched the door, which bloomed open at their touch like the petals of a night-blooming lily. Without hesitation, they stepped inside. The air within the house was warm and drowsy, filled with the scent of rain-soaked earth and the faint sweetness of something almost remembered, old books perhaps, or the sigh of lilacs opening under a spring moon. Each room the traveler entered was unlike the last. There were no corridors, no staircases, no divisions as made by hands. Instead, the house grew rooms organically, tenderly, as a tree grows branches, each unfolding from the last. In one room, the walls were soft velvet, the color of twilight skies, and the ceiling drifted higher with every breath. In another, the floor was a gentle river of mist, where stepping stones floated lazily, carrying the traveler from one drifting island of memory to another. Objects rested here and there, not placed, but grown, small tables shaped like mushrooms, lamps blooming from the walls like phosphorescent flowers, chairs coiled from ivy and moss. The traveler touched nothing at first, simply moving with slow wonder through the shifting spaces. They understood, in the quiet way one understands the hush of snowfall, that the house was listening, that it shaped itself not from desire, but from need. A need not yet spoken aloud. A need perhaps not yet even known. In the heart of the house, the traveler paused before a great archway woven from branches dipped in gold. Beyond it, a new space unfurled, wide, luminous, filled with the soft crackle of unseen fires and the scent of fresh rain. And somewhere within, a heartbeat pulsed, not loud, not demanding, but steady. Steady as the growth of roots beneath a sleeping field. Steady as hope. And drawn by that patient, waiting pulse, the traveler stepped deeper into the blooming heart of the house. The archway folded around the traveler like a whisper, not a barrier, but a welcome, as if the house itself had breathed a soft sigh at their passage. Beyond it stretched a vast, glowing chamber. The walls curved like the inside of a shell, shimmering faintly in hues of pearl and soft rose. The floor was carpeted in something that was neither grass nor moss, but something between, springy and fragrant, inviting bare feet to sink gently, weightlessly, into its embrace. At the center of the chamber grew a tree. It rose from the very heart of the house, its trunk smooth as river stones, its branches threading upward into the unseen heights of the roof, each one tipped with leaves that glowed softly, like embers on the verge of sleep. Nestled among its roots were pools of clear water, so still they seemed made of polished glass, each reflecting different scenes, a child laughing beneath a weeping willow, a boat rocking lazily on an endless sea, a lantern swaying gently in a summer breeze. The traveler knelt beside one of the pools, peering into its depths. There, within the shimmer, they saw something familiar, not a memory precisely, but a feeling stitched into the shape of an image. A quiet afternoon. A book held open by a drowsy hand. The warmth of sunlight pooling across an old wooden floor. It was not a grand memory. It was not a triumph or a sorrow. It was a small, forgotten moment, tender, weightless, a thread in the great unseen weaving of a life. And the traveler understood, with a sweetness that filled their chest like soft rain. The house was not made of walls and beams. It was made of moments. Grown from every quiet, patient thing the world often forgets. And here, they were remembered. The traveler sat quietly beside the pool, letting the house breathe around them. Time slipped its hold, drifting like mist along the roots of the tree. There were no clocks here, no schedules, no insistence that one moment be different from another. Only the slow unfolding of space, of light, of feeling. From the corner of their eye, the traveler saw movement, not hurried, not sharp, but the slow blooming of something new. A door, where none had been before, unfurled from the wall like a leaf unfolding under a gentle sun. Without question, without fear, they rose and passed through. The new room was smaller, cozier, the ceiling lower, the walls warmly curved, hung with tapestries woven from the colors of dusk and memory. In the center of the room stood a table, round and low, grown from the thick roots of the tree itself. Upon it sat a single object. A seed. It pulsed faintly with light, as if breathing, as if sleeping. Not a seed of a tree or flower known to any map or garden, but something older, something woven from the sighs of oceans and the first songs of stones. The traveler reached out, their hand hovering just above it. In the hush, in the breathing silence, they understood. The house had grown for them. But now it asked if they would grow something, too. A seed for a new room, a new story, a new dream. The traveler smiled, a smile soft and sure, and with both hands, they cradled the seed. At their touch, the house sighed, not with exhaustion, but with relief, with joy. And the walls around them shimmered softly. Waiting. Waiting for the dream yet to be dreamed. The seed, nestled in the traveler's palms, was warm, not with heat, but with a quiet, patient life. It pulsed slowly, like the rhythm of a resting heart, and when the traveler pressed it gently to the earth at their feet, the house itself seemed to lean closer, listening. No rush. No hurry. Only the tender, uncoiling breath of something beginning. The traveler watched as the seed, bathed in the soft golden light of the room, began to change. First, a single tendril sprouted, fine as a hair, gleaming with dew. Then another, curling upward, weaving patterns into the air. From these slender beginnings, a shape began to unfold, not sharp, not sudden, but slow and sinuous, as if it had always been waiting just beneath the skin of the world. The new room grew around them. Walls blossomed upward, formed from woven strands of twilight and laughter. Windows opened like blinking eyes, revealing glimpses of other places, other times, a hill crowned with violets, a river carrying tiny boats of folded leaves, a market square where lanterns floated like low-hanging moons. The traveler stood in the heart of it all, awed, smiling, tears gathering lightly at the corners of their eyes, not from sorrow, but from the tender, aching beauty of creation unforced, unfeared. Here was a room made not of plans, not of needs, but of wishes too soft to speak aloud. And the house, faithful and listening, had grown them into being. When the last tendril of the new room had curled into place, the house grew still again, but it was a living stillness, a stillness rich with breath, like a forest just before dawn. The traveler wandered through the space they had made. Each corner hummed softly, stitched together with unseen songs, songs born from longings they had carried for years, perhaps without even knowing. Songs of warm kitchens filled with laughter. Songs of long walks under new moons. songs of silent companionship shared beneath ancient trees. Here, there was a small alcove where books sprouted from living shelves, their covers whispering as the traveler passed. There, a window shaped like a seashell opened onto an endless desert of silver sands, each grain gleaming like stardust. In another corner, a hammock swayed gently between two flowering beams, heavy with the perfume of unseen blossoms. The traveler touched nothing. They needed nothing. The room was already complete, already perfect, because it was shaped from the simplest of truths. The heart, when trusted, knows how to build a home. They sat upon the hammock, letting it cradle them, letting the soft air sing around them. Outside, the house sighed, a long, slow exhalation of peace, and the world beyond the edges of maps turned quietly on its ancient axis, bearing the gentle secret of the house that grew, and bloomed, and breathed. The traveler closed their eyes. Not to sleep, but to dream even deeper. And somewhere within the living walls, new seeds stirred, waiting for the next soft whisper of longing to bloom. The traveler rested in the hammock, rocking slowly, the woven thread sighing with every breath of the house. Above them, the ceiling drifted higher, shifting colors like a lazy river, from deep velvet blue to the soft gold of dawn, then back again, as if the house itself were dreaming alongside them. Around the traveler, the air carried the scent of things half remembered, the warm, sleepy sweetness of baking bread, the faint tang of the sea on a faraway breeze, the sharp, fresh green of moss after rain. Each breath drew these memories closer, not as sharp images, but as feelings, soft brushstrokes across the canvas of the soul. The windows, open wide to the world, framed a sky stitched with slow-drifting stars. Beyond the house, hills rolled away in gentle sighs, cloaked in silver mist. A small river meandered lazily through fields of flowers that only opened under the moon, their petals shimmering like quiet promises. The traveler closed their eyes and listened. In the hush, they could hear the heartbeat of the house, deep, slow, kind, and, beneath it, the fainter song of their own heart, answering. It was a conversation too deep for words, too ancient for any language ever written. It was the language of growing things, of roots seeking water in the darkness, of petals turning blindly toward light they had never seen but always trusted. And so, cradled by breath, by light, by the endless patient song of the house, the traveler drifted not into sleep, but into a deeper dreaming, where the soul could stretch out its limbs, where old sorrows could soften into lullabies, where new hopes could uncurl like shy tendrils toward a waiting sky. In the deep dreaming, the traveler wandered rooms that had not yet grown, paths that might bloom tomorrow or perhaps 100 years from now. They walked barefoot across floors stitched from golden vines, through halls where lanterns bobbed like slow-moving fireflies. They brushed their fingertips across walls that hummed with the low music of unseen gardens. They tasted rain from a hidden fountain, its drops cool and sweet, singing as they fell. In one room, 1,000 tiny paintings lined the walls, each no larger than a thumbprint, each capturing a single, fleeting moment. A bird rising into a stormy sky. A single tear caught on a laughing cheek. A candle flickering against the hush of midnight. The traveler paused before these, marveling at how much could be held within something so small. In another room, an orchard of miniature trees grew from the floor, each no taller than a cat, each bearing fruits that glowed softly with inner light. When the traveler picked one, a fruit no larger than a pearl, it melted upon their tongue, tasting of memory, of courage, of first steps taken into unknown lands. Everywhere they walked, the house grew quietly around them, not chasing, not demanding, but simply unfolding, offering doors and windows and secret gardens, all stitched from the simplest longing. The wish to belong. The wish to be understood. The wish to be gently, endlessly welcomed. And through it all, the traveler smiled in their dreaming, knowing that whatever path they chose to follow, the house would blossom behind them, a living tapestry of every step taken with an open heart. When the traveler at last woke from the deep dreaming, they found the house had changed once more. Not dramatically, not suddenly, but in the way a forest changes overnight, or a river alters its course across the span of seasons, quietly, faithfully, without the need to announce itself. New doorways now arched invitingly along the walls, their thresholds dusted with golden pollen that shimmered in the soft morning light. A gentle staircase, grown from braided roots and flowering vines, wound upward toward unseen heights. And upon the floor at their feet, where once there had been only smooth moss, a small path had sprouted, a ribbon of white clover and tiny blue blossoms, meandering deeper into the heart of the house. The traveler rose, their movements slow and unhurried. Every fiber of them seemed stitched now with the house's own rhythm, the slow, patient tempo of things that trust the sun to rise, the rain to fall, the seed to break open in its time. They followed the clover path. It wound through rooms bathed in soft light, through arches heavy with the perfume of unseen orchards. It led them past walls where vines whispered against each other, forming slow, unreadable letters, messages meant only for the soul. Along the way, the traveler noticed other seeds, cradled in small nooks, tucked between the folds of blooming walls, resting in the crooks of windows. Each one pulsed faintly, sleeping, waiting for a touch, a wish, a dream. The house was not finished. It would never be finished. It would grow as long as there were hearts willing to dream within it. And the traveler smiled, a deep, easy smile, as they followed the blossoming path forward. At the path's end, the traveler came to a final room, if such a word could even be used for it. There were no walls here, no ceiling to cradle the sky. Only a wide, open terrace, where the horizon stretched endlessly in every direction, stitched together with soft veils of mist and floating gardens of pale flowers. A single chair sat in the center of the terrace, not grand, not gilded, but simple and sure, woven from the same living roots that cradled the whole house. The traveler approached and sat. Before them, the edge of the world shimmered, a place where land gave way to sky, where the known slipped tenderly into the unknown, where every step forward was a step into wonder. They felt no fear. They felt no loneliness. Only the quiet thrill of belonging, belonging not to a place, nor to a time, but to the endless, breathing tapestry of dreaming itself. The house had not been a destination. It had been a companion, a mirror, a garden where the quiet seeds of the heart could grow without hurry, without judgment. And now, at the edge of all things, the traveler understood. They could step forward whenever they wished. Or they could remain, cradled by the house's slow, loving arms. Both choices would be honored. Both choices would be whole. The wind sighed softly across the terrace, stirring the mist into slow dances. Above, the stars blinked sleepily, patient and kind. The traveler closed their eyes, feeling the weightless hush of infinite possibility settle around them like a second skin. And somewhere deep within the living walls behind them, new seeds stirred. New rooms ready to bloom whenever the heart next dreamed. The traveler remained seated upon the terrace, their hands resting lightly on their knees, their eyes closed not in slumber, but in the soft, waking dream of belonging. Around them, the mist swirled and sang, not loudly, not in any tongue known to the waking world, but in soft syllables stitched from the breath of sleeping oceans and the hush of ancient hills. The house behind them pulsed quietly, a heartbeat stitched into stone, into root, into woven air. And somewhere, deep in the marrow of the traveler's bones, they understood. This was not the end of the journey. It was the beginning of the true wandering. For the world beyond the house was not empty. It was simply unwritten. A place where every footstep would plant seeds in the soil of possibility, where every breath would weave threads into the fabric of a living, breathing story. The travelers smiled without opening their eyes. They understood now that the house had been preparing them, teaching them not by lessons, but by listening, by growing alongside them, by showing them how to trust the soft, slow blooming of their own heart. No road needed to be chosen today. No great decision demanded. It was enough to sit in the sweet hush, to breathe, to feel the slow spinning of the world beneath their feet, to know that when the moment came to rise, they would know. They would step forward, not because the world demanded it, but because their own soul, stitched now with patience and wonder, would lean gently toward the horizon. And wherever they went, they would carry the house within them, its seeds tucked quietly behind their ribs, its songs stitched into the silent spaces between heartbeats. At last, when the first pale light of a new dawn brushed its fingertips against the mist, the traveler rose. The chair, the terrace, the soft curling gardens beyond them, all seemed to shimmer, to hum a soft goodbye stitched from silver and gold. The house did not try to hold them. It did not close its doors nor weave new walls to contain them. It simply opened wider, a blessing, a promise, offering endless paths blooming out into the unknown. The traveler took a step, and then another. And with each step, the mist parted, revealing new lands woven from dreams not yet dreamed, songs not yet sung, kindnesses not yet given. Behind them, the house remained, not diminished, not abandoned, but alive, continuing to grow at the edge of the world, offering its shelter, its songs, its slow, patient magic to any heart who might one day wander by. And the traveler, wrapped in the soft cloak of belonging, woven now from memory, from hope, from the golden light of new beginnings, walked onward into the wide, breathing morning. The sky opened like a flower overhead. The earth thrummed like a distant drum beneath their feet. And the great, endless tapestry of life welcomed them, one gentle, shimmering step at a time. And so they traveled. Not away from the house, but carrying it always within, wherever the soft winds of wonder might lead.